For 40 years, your life made noise. The alarm at 6, the commute, the inbox that never emptied, the paycheck that landed every 2 weeks like clockwork. You spent decades wishing it would all just stop. And then one Friday, it does. Nobody warns you about the silence that follows. Not the peaceful kind you pictured. The other kind. The kind that gets so quiet you can hear your own doubts. And here's the part almost no one says out loud. That silence is exactly when the most disciplined savers in America make their biggest money mistakes. Because 7 things go quiet the day you retire. Each one feels like a small loss, but each one is actually trying to tell you something about your money and about the time you have left to use it. Miss the message, and you can spend your last good decade guarding a number you'll never touch. Hear it, and everything changes. So let's turn the volume back up on the silence, one sound at a time. The first thing to go quiet is the paycheck. For your entire adult life, money moved in one direction, toward you, every 2 weeks like a tide you never had to think about. Then it stops, and for the first time in 40 years, the only way money comes in is if you reach in and pull it out yourself. That single switch breaks something in the brain. Spending your own savings doesn't feel like getting paid. It feels like bleeding. So people freeze. They live on Social Security alone and let a 7-figure portfolio just sit there, untouched, like it belongs to someone else. Here's what the silence is really telling you. Your portfolio is your paycheck now. Your job in retirement isn't to protect the pile. It's to turn it into a reliable monthly check, on purpose. That means knowing the order to spend in, generally your taxable accounts first, then your tax-deferred 401k and IRA, and your tax-free Roth last, so your money keeps growing in the right place and your tax bill stays low. Pull a sustainable slice, around 4% a year, and history says it lasts about 3 decades. The paycheck didn't disappear. You just became the one who signs it. David never learned that. He waited for a check that was never coming again and called it being careful. The second thing to go quiet is the scoreboard. For 30 years, you had a number that only went up. The 401k balance, the raise, the net worth that climbed a little every year. That climbing number was a scoreboard, and watching it rise gave you a quiet hit of, I'm doing this right every single time you checked. In retirement, the scoreboard stops climbing. By design, the number's supposed to come down now, and for a lifelong saver, watching it shrink, even on schedule, feels like failing. This is the trap economists actually have a name for. They call it the decumulation puzzle, the strange difficulty of unsaving. You spent 40 years becoming an expert at one skill, growing the number, and the day you retire, you're asked to do the exact opposite with no practice. So you don't. You keep score the old way, and you starve the retirement you built. The silence is telling you the game changed. The win used to be the biggest pile. Now the win is the fullest life that pile can buy. Susan understood that the day she retired. David is still checking a scoreboard that stopped keeping score. The third thing to go quiet is the alarm clock, and with it, something bigger. Your sense of why you get up at all. Work gave you more than money. It gave you a role, a reason, a place to be needed by 10 o'clock. When that goes silent, a lot of people fall into one of 2 money traps, and they pull in opposite directions. Some try to buy their way out of the emptiness. The boat, the second home, the impulse purchases that promise to fill a Tuesday that suddenly has nothing in it. Others do the opposite. They sink into a kind of quiet inertia, stop planning, stop spending, stop engaging, and let fear make every decision by default. Here's the message underneath. Retirement was never meant to be the end of purpose. It's a transfer of it. The paycheck stops, but the need to matter, to build something, to be useful, doesn't retire when you do. The healthiest retirees, and not by coincidence the happiest, treat this as a job change, not a shutdown. They spend on purpose, on the things that give the day a shape. The silence isn't asking you to do nothing. It's asking you, maybe for the first time, what you actually want to do. The fourth thing to go quiet is the phone. The kids are grown and busy. The grandkids have their own lives. The calls that used to come now have to be made. And there's a particular ache in the silence of a phone that doesn't ring, especially for people who spent their whole lives being needed. So here's where the money mistake hides, and it's a tender one. A lot of retirees try to fill that silence by giving, picking up the grandkids' tuition, bailing out an adult child again, saying yes to every ask, because being the one who provides feels like being needed. It's love. But unchecked, it quietly drains the very retirement that was supposed to last 30 years. And studies of family finances show this kind of open-ended support is one of the most common ways a solid plan springs a leak. The silence is telling you something hard. You cannot buy closeness, and you don't have to. The most generous thing you can do for your kids is to not become a financial burden to them later. Be there. Show up. Spend on the trip and the visit and the shared table. But fund your own life first. A parent who runs out of money doesn't protect their children. They become the next thing their children have to carry. The fifth thing to go quiet is the one nobody wants to hear, the green light on your own health. Right now in your early 60s, you can still do almost anything. Carry the suitcase, hike the trail, get down on the floor with a grandchild and get back up. Financial planners call this the go-go years, and they don't last as long as you think. Researchers tracking real retirement spending found that a household spending freely in their 60s is, on average, spending around 26% less by their mid-80s. Not because they ran out of money, because the body quietly downshifts. Go-go becomes slow-go, becomes no-go. Here is the heartbreak buried in the math. Your money and your health do not run out at the same time. Your savings might last until you're 100. The version of you that can actually use it has a much earlier expiration date. So when you tell yourself, I'll travel later, I'll spend it when I'm older, understand what later really looks like. Later, you won't spend more. You'll spend less, whether you meant to or not. Every trip you postpone isn't being saved. It's being quietly charged to an account that doesn't refill your time. The green light is still on. The silence is just reminding you it won't be forever. The sixth thing to go quiet is harder to name. It's the world's signal that you still matter. The invitation's slow. The opinion that everyone used to ask for goes unrequested. There's a way the culture quietly puts retirees on a shelf, treats the spending, the dreams, the wants of a 70-year-old as somehow less urgent than everyone else's. And after a lifetime of being told to defer, to be responsible, to put yourself last, it is dangerously easy to agree with that silence, to decide that your own comfort, your own joy, isn't worth the money. That belief is the most expensive one in this whole video. Here's the truth that silence is hiding. The money was always for you. Every dollar in that account is a few hours of your life you already traded away. You earned it. A dollar you never spent on a life you actually wanted isn't safe, and it isn't noble. It's a piece of your life you sacrificed for and then never lived. Spending reasonably on your own years isn't selfish. It's the entire point. You don't need anyone's permission to matter, but if you're waiting for it, consider this yours. And then there's the seventh thing, except this one is different, because in all that silence, one sound never stops. It only gets louder. The worry, the voice at 3 in the morning that says, what if I run out? What about a market crash? What about a nursing home that costs 6 figures a year? If your stomach just tightened, good, because this fear is real, and it deserves a real answer, not a pep talk. So let's be honest about the numbers. For most people who saved well, the math is far kinder than the fear. That 4% guideline exists for a reason, and the researcher who created it later said his own data supported pulling closer to 5. Underneath your withdrawals sits a floor that never disappears, your Social Security check arriving every month for as long as you live, no matter what the market does. And yes, long-term care is a genuine risk, with research suggesting most people will need some form of it. That's not a reason to freeze. It's a reason to plan for it on purpose, with insurance or a dedicated slice of savings, instead of punishing your healthy years to self-insure against a maybe. There is a vast difference between spending recklessly and giving yourself permission to spend reasonably. One worry that won't go quiet should make you plan. It should never be allowed to drown out the other 6. So here's what I want you to hear in all of it. Those 7 silences feel like losses: the paycheck, the scoreboard, the alarm, the phone, The green light, the sense that you matter, the worry that won't stop. But line them up, and they're not an ending. They're an invitation. For 40 years, you lived in reaction, answering every signal the moment it rang. The silence is the first time in your adult life that nothing is telling you what to do, which means finally you get to hear what you want. Two people retired on the same street, the same year, with the same savings. David heard the silence as a threat. He guarded the number, waited for permission that never came, and passed away with more than he started with in a list of trips he never took. Susan heard the silence as a green light. She built a paycheck, kept her purpose, showed up for her family without bankrupting herself, and used her good years while they were still good. Same money, same fears. One left behind a fortune and a quiet house full of regret. The other left behind a little less money and a life she actually lived. The goal was never to die with the most. It was to not die with the most regret. You already did the hard part. You saved, you sacrificed, you built the thing. The only mistake left is to guard it so carefully that you never hear what the quiet is trying to give you. So when it goes quiet, don't be afraid of it. Lean in, and finally listen.